Cosma, can you be able to hear us?
Hi to you and hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining. I look forward to having an interesting engagement over this evening around this topic.
All right. So today we are just going to, before he begins, we are just going to do a little bit of an exercise. Faith, please help me share the link for the Mentimeter. So before we begin, one question that I would like to ask all of us, and you can just click the link that will be provided in the comment section. And tonight we are just asking, what is the purpose of business? Is it A, to maximize profit for shareholders? Is it to create and retain good jobs? Is it to satisfy customers' need or solve problems at a profit? Or is it to do something that you're passionate about to make a difference? So Faith, please share the link so that we can see what people say about this question. So 2 people have chosen D. Amazing. So let's just keep on voting. I can see someone saying to satisfy customers' needs and to solve their problems at a profit. Okay. Okay. Just keep on voting, then now we'll proceed. Can see 4 people saying to do something you're passionate about, to make a difference, and also to 6 people are saying to 7 actually. Okay, let's keep it going. So I can see most people are saying to satisfy customers' needs and solving their problems at a profit. All right. Okay. So with this, let's hear what Cosma has to say about it. Cosma, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Lulu. Thank you for that. I am very surprised to see that very few people, we didn't get any votes. I don't know if we're still voting, suggesting that the reason is to maximize profits. So I'm just wondering, and maybe you can post in the comment bar, how come all of you want to start a business, but you don't want to do anything here? You don't want to think about profits? Do you want to run a business at a loss? Or is your uh, your, your, your business a non-profit and you just so you thinking about it? Goal of the country. So the just comment about that. Why do you want to vote? And some people haven't voted. I think we still have fewer votes than more people than have voted. So you can continue voting. I think the polling station is still open, and we're still accepting votes. So someone says, Eunice says, passion brings profit. So if you're passionate about what you do, it will bring profits. And then Ravi says, well, a good business will encompass all the 4 elements. So all 4 will be part of a good business. That's an interesting perspective. why King you're in. I can see a few more comments coming in. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just we can probably come back to that, but let me just progress. And it's interesting to see that we don't have too many people saying that to maximize profits for the shareholder or for you, the investor, is your core reason for investing. And the reason is something else. Now, you interestingly mentioned that the needs of the customer and meeting the solving problems of the customer, but at a profit is the goal of a business. I'll be talking a lot more about that because, in fact, that's a good intro to what I will be saying. And I want to start by telling you a problem, a story about a young man called Tom, who was a very promising employee in our consulting firm. And some of the people like Ravi have introduced themselves as a consultant. And this was actually someone working in one of the big 4 consulting companies. And he was headed for partner, very good performance, very dedicated to his work, and a very quality product that he was producing. One day, he surprises everyone by handing in his resignation. And HR call him to try and dissuade him, but they're unable to make him change his mind. And then he is asked by HR to see the CEO, and the CEO hears about it. He says, bring him into my office. I'll immediately give him an offer. And whatever offer he's got to keep Tom in the company, I'm going to not only match it, but I'm going to beat it. And he has his meeting with the CEO. And this is how the meeting goes. The CEO asks him, so Tom, what is it? Why are you leaving? And Tom says this, I've been working here for some time, but for some reason, I do not feel that this work has any meaning beyond the paycheck. And I'm feeling that I cannot connect in this job to my purpose. And the CEO gets a bit concerned about this, and he kind of sits forward in his seat and says, what do you mean purpose? Aren't we paying you enough? Aren't you working on exciting projects? Aren't the projects exciting enough? He says there's nothing wrong with the projects. It's just that I do not feel that this is where I'm going to find my purpose. And the CEO says, well, explain. Where are you going? Who are you joining? Are you joining the competition? Are you perhaps going to go and find your purpose there? And Tom says, no. He says, I am actually going to find my purpose in a very different area. Let me start by sharing my screen. Lulu, if you could allow me to share my screen, and then I'll take on from there. So we find Tom in this discussion on purpose, and we see him having this discussion. Lulu, is my screen being shared now?
Yes, please, you can.
Just tell me if you can see this visual. Let me. Yes, that's clear. So
yes, I can.
So Tom says, surprise, surprise, that he is actually not joining the opposition, but he is going to do exactly what is depicted on the screen, that he is going to become a mountain guide. A mountain guide, the CEO asks, why could you possibly going to do that? And Tom then begins to explain. He says, I have been doing mountain working as a mountain guide on the side. I do this over the weekends at a group of friends that we climb mountains together. And I've actually been training and improving my skill as a guide. And I've found this very satisfying. I have actually had the privilege of helping people train and prepare to conquer very high mountains. And I find that when I take them through the process of training, of preparation, and when I take them through the different challenges, going through the different climatic zones, going through the different geographic and physical challenges in a mountain, I help them overcome not only the physical barrier of the mountain, but even any barrier that they're facing in their personal life in terms of their challenges and any obstacles that they cannot overcome. And what gives me most satisfaction is the feedback they give me at the end of summiting a mountain. Each and every one of them come and says, Tom, if it was not for you, I would not have overcome that barrier. I would not have made it to the peak of that mountain. And now I am confident that I can go and overcome any other challenge in my personal life, in my professional life, in business, in my relationships, any obstacle, any addiction. I can now overcome it because you have helped me overcome this massive physical challenge. And Tom says, well, that's why I'm leaving, and I'm going to become a mountain guide. The CEO says, well, I've got no comeback. He simply was unable to give him any offer. It is not about money. In fact, Tom was indeed taking a paycheck. Tom was connecting to his purpose because he felt what he was doing in his day job was out of step with his purpose. So we need to understand this, that people are meant to be purpose-oriented, and people connect with purpose. One of the key things that we are working in a purpose-oriented way is that two things begin to happen. One, we become more productive. We become a lot more productive. You find that we become productive. Now, here is something that happens that we're told about this generation of the millennials. Millennials, and by the way, Tom was a millennial. It says that research says 83% of millennials say having a job with a sense of purpose is important to them. So having a job that not only gives them a paycheck, but gives them a purpose, a job that not only gives them money, but gives them meaning, matters to millennials. 83% is a significant number. You also find that customers now and consumers are increasingly being drawn to brands, to organizations that have a strong social or environmental mission. Other causes that young people or customers want to connect with are issues of social justice, issues of equity, issues of equal opportunity. So these are concerns that customers are having. They're not just wanting to shop at a nice supermarket because it has a nice display. They want to see, what does this company actually stand for? And what values is this company promoting in the social space? They're talking about social issues here. And do these social concerns of the company align with my personal concerns? So customers are asking these questions of consumers and they're not of organizations. They're no longer just wanting to shop because the place is cheaper. And then third, we find that companies, not only in work, but also in their life decisions. Tom is an excellent example because there's something that the millennials have actually done and introduced to us. They have brought in the purpose discussion into the workplace. Prior to what the millennials taught us to do, many people had a brick wall between their purpose and their profession, between what they do for a paycheck and how they connect with purpose. And those two are entirely separated. They would work Monday to Friday for a paycheck, and then maybe over the weekend, then go and engage with purpose. Millennials came and said, no, we want the two to actually be one undivided whole. So they're prioritizing purpose and meaning in work, and they're looking for integration. They don't want separation between those two. Now, what does this mean as far as one of the key issues is concerned, which is building trust? Now, this is actually a study which is done on an annual basis by Ipsos. This is Ipsos worldwide. They do about 31 countries, and they actually take this survey. Now, what Ipsos does is they look at professions. So here you can see the different professions, from the scientists all the way down to pollsters to politicians. This is the how trustworthy, how trusted they are by a general opinion poll. You can see scientists are topping the poll. Scientists are very well regarded. 60%. Doctors follow, teachers, and so on. I could have a lot of fun, about this. This is a global poll, for instance. So some of us in Kenya might be wondering how come the police are scoring so well, but this is a global poll. So and actually Kenya is not one of the countries on the sample, but nonetheless, so maybe that explains this. And it's interesting to see politicians and government ministers, where they rank, way below here. But so, there's a lot we could say about this, but I digress. Let's just talk about business leaders. You can see here how low business leaders are on the ranking. So business is often suffering from levels of mistrust. Now, this blue, light blue, ocean blue color here is how much trustworthiness these professions have. The same professions were measured against how untrustworthy they scored. So people are asked, how much do you trust a scientist? It was scored in light blue. How much do you mistrust a scientist? And it was scored in red. So this minus that, the 60 minus the 11, gives what is then called the net trust. So this is what you find, that most professionals operate on a trust deficit. They're overdrawn on their trust accounts. Now let's look at doctors. If you look at their positive versus their negative, you see it's a net of 43. So if you look at doctors, for instance, they had 56 minus 14, you end up you end up with that 43, 42. Scientists and so on. So you can see only doctors, people in the military, and all the way up to judges have a trust credit. So if you look at their trust accounts, only these few professionals have a trust credit. All the rest are in deficit. In other words, more people distrust them than trust them. So look at everybody here, from lawyers to TV anchors to bankers, even clergy to journalists and advertising executives, and of course politicians. Politicians, just imagine, a 46% trust deficit. And as I'm saying here, these people, all these professionals, are overdrawn on their trust accounts. Well, if we said that people are now looking to connect with, to buy from, and even to work with organizations that they trust, where they can find purpose, you find that there's a problem with many professionals. And most professions are suffering from a major trust deficit, which doesn't put them in good stead. Now, I want us to look at this question here called the shareholder maximization theory, because when it comes to the question of business, most people who are actually starting a business are actually trained in this theory. Now, this is why I actually pushed you on the question earlier. How come none of you, or very few, actually said that your purpose of establishing a business is to grow your profit? So the question I'm asking is, do you want to run your business at a loss? Someone said that passion will pursue profit, will lead to profit. Shareholder maximization theory, for anyone who's done any studies in business, whether it's locally in Kenya, in the region, in Africa, or overseas, is going to have come across this theory, which basically says this, that there's only one social responsibility of business: to increase its profits, as long as you do that without deception or fraud. And the author of this was an economist, an American economist, who actually wrote this in a New York Times article, famously wrote this way back in 1970. And ever since 1970, you found that the shareholder maximization, also called profit maximization theory, has been the official doctrine throughout business, throughout colleges and universities. So anybody doing an undergrad, a postgrad, or even further studies in business will have come across this, that the job of you as management and as directors and as staff is to maximize the return for the investor, the shareholder, in simple language, to make them as rich as possible. Now, I was therefore very surprised to see that many of you say that actually that is not the way business should be structured. What you're saying, this view assumes is that a company is apart from, not a part of society. So it assumes that a company or a business is separate from, it is distinct from, it is not part and parcel of society. So what Milton Friedman is telling us here, you stick to your job of running a business and let other people, the government or NGOs or churches or philanthropies, let them do the job of looking after society. But your job is actually to get rich as quickly as you can. This was actually popularized in movies. This movie here, Wall Street, is a bit dated, but you can see the movie. And then The Wolf of Wall Street here, featuring A-list artists. This is Gordon Gekko. Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Gordon Gekko, aka Martin Douglas. And then we've got The Wolf of Wall Street, featuring Leonardo. These movies actually popularized this whole greed is good philosophy. And this, by the way, was something that was fairly new in American theory, because in America, just to move back to this idea was only introduced in the mid-70s in 1974, although it led all American companies, followed it thereafter. But for about 40 or 50 years prior to that, companies were actually seen as being a part and parcel of society. They were the pillar of any community, of any social group. Many people, multiple generations would get jobs, let's say in a local factory, in a local bank, in a local organization, and they felt that they needed certainly to be profitable, but they felt they had a role to actually contribute and give back to society. What we then found here was an entire reversal of that view. It was popularized in these movies in the 1970s. And that is really what has been doctrine for literally 50 years, until 50 years later, in about 2019, the Business Roundtable, which brings together the key businesses in the US, the top and most highly valuable companies, meet under this organization. It's kind of a very high-level chamber of commerce. And this is their chairman in 2019, Jamie Dimon, saying that companies should operate for the benefits of all shareholders. And he lists who the shareholders are here. So he notice he says this is actually meant to be all stakeholders rather, and it says that the customers, employees, suppliers, communities, and as well as those who've invested are all meant to benefit. And this is a view that actually turns the profit maximization theory on its head. It's no longer just shareholder maximization, but stakeholder benefit, and all stakeholders are meant to benefit. And this view has actually been becoming more popular. I quote here an interesting quote: "To prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society." Now, this is said by none other than Larry Fink, who's the founder of BlackRock. This is the world's biggest and largest investment corporation. They had in December of last year, $10 trillion in assets. So these are assets that they're managing. And of course, anybody giving them their assets to manage is looking for a profit. So these are people who don't have any problem with profit. But look at what he's saying. He's saying that even them, though they're given money and meant to look for a profit for the people who invest in them, they want not only financial performance, but also you must show that it makes a positive contribution to society. So they're agreeing with the Business Roundtable and totally doing away with the mindset that a business only exists for the purpose of making the investors very financially rich. You'll find that there's ancient wisdom from as long as 985 years BC. This is literally 3,000 years ago. Ancient wisdom from the Proverbs of Solomon on the whole question of profit retention and distribution. And this is what he says in one of his Proverbs, that one person gives generously, yet gains even more. Another withholds more than what is right, but it ends only in poverty. So he's talking about that, when you've got your business and you're running your enterprise, one person can be generous with what of the business. In today's language, it's what is right. It ends where since then. And this is actually demonstrated by this graph. And this is actually a study from the Global McKinsey Institute. When in 2017, they did a study over 15 years. A 15-year study over the top transactionals. They found that they had much higher economic profits, higher revenue, higher market capitalization, and created more jobs. So you can see its growth in all these key metrics. And how did they describe a relational company? These are companies that were focused on building long-term value building orientation. And this was their business strategy, a long-term perspective, not short-term. They had multiple bottom lines. So they're again connecting with what the stakeholder idea is, that they want something that benefits the investors, certainly, but also benefits the customers, the staff, the community, the environment, multiple bottom lines, not just one bottom line for the investor. They value customer retention over a long time. So this was the whole time of the lifetime value of a customer. So value customer relationships and really invest in it. And notably, they had strong connections with all stakeholders, not just some. Now, notice here, what he says is that this is growth over a 15-year period. So this is showing a good trend. This is not just a blip in the connecting to what Larry Fink from BlackRock is saying, that over time, if you want to grow and be successful over time, you've got to think much more broadly than just individual bottom line achievement. The problem in many of our global companies today is that we have got this short-sighted approach. And this is an article talking about the short-sightedness of American business. And a lot of the examples I know that we practice in business today actually come from America. And that's why I'm focusing a lot of the discussion on those examples. We tend to borrow from them. And I know we've got branches of many internationals there. The Fortune 500 ranks America's biggest companies. We see something interesting. More than half of the companies ranked on this index in the year 2000 no longer are no longer on the list today. They were either acquired, some actually went bust. They went bankrupt, totally ceased to exist. Others were acquired. But it's interesting to see that they have a very short tenure there. And also the average CEO tenure now at the top of one of these companies has shrunk from 10 years back in the 1960s to only 5 years today. So it again shows there's a short-term focus that most businesses today are actually focused about fixing the short-term next quarter results. They're not looking at a long-term perspective. This is not a good picture for the long-term viability of a business. People talk about SMEs and say most SMEs, 3/4 of an SME of the SMEs that are founded won't exist in 5 years. But look, these aren't even SMEs. These are very big companies. And you're still finding that there is a problem in terms of their longevity and even their purpose. Don't tell me that someone who's only there for 5 years is thinking about long-term purpose. He's thinking, or she's thinking, if she's a CEO or about their bonus, about maybe a quick in the 5 years. They really can't have a long-term perspective. The key question that we're looking at is, what is at the center of your company? Is it profit or is it purpose? So here we're looking here about the whole universe of stakeholders. So these are your stakeholders: the community, the planet, the suppliers, employees, customers, and the consumer, and even the shareholders. Shareholders are certainly one of the stakeholders. If profit is at the center, you'll find that you'll run your business in a certain way. But if purpose is at the center, you'll find that your whole organization and even your staff and even the way you engage with your suppliers and your customers is going to be run very differently. These are very different business philosophies, and it leads to very different operations, very different values, very different internal processes. Crucially, it leads to a very different organizational culture. And culture determines everything. A profit-oriented culture is going to be transactional. A purpose-oriented culture is going to be relational. You want to focus on building key relationships of trust over the long term with your suppliers, with your employees, with your customers, with even competitors. This is for the industry. You do things as an association with the shareholders, with the planet, the community. So a very different culture, business ethos, business values. And you'll find, if you're to do metrics on things like employee engagement and so on, you'll find purpose-oriented companies have much better employee engagement, much higher productivity, much more cohesion in teams, much more collaboration, and much better relationships with the customer. And as we saw earlier, and I have also 1 or 2 more slides on that, you see it results in great benefits. The word company actually has 2 meanings. When you look at the etymology means looking at the root of the word. One meaning is actually from the French and the Latin companis, which really meant meaning together, and it meant sharing bread together. It really talked about issues of eating together, sharing stories together, and even trading together, essentially building on the idea that companies are communities. But a company is also a subunit in a battalion, a military battalion. A small group like this is called a company. Now, this company is actually building on the idea of companionship, mutual concern in a military format. It highlights the importance of shared experience and association in human society. Now here, everybody knows, and any person in battle, any armyman knows that when they go out to battle like this, no matter what oath they have taken, no one goes into battle thinking about dying for God and for country. That is not what they think about in the battlefield. Each of these people in a company is looking to the man on his left and the man on his right. And he says, you've got my back, I've got yours. You're looking to each of your fellow comrades and your partners, and they become family. You look after them, and this person knows that he is looking after common purpose. This is what helps you to forge together and win the battle. So people know that companionship is key to being a company. The togetherness is key to being a company. We need to do things together, eating together, sharing stories together, thinking about words like association, shared experiences. This is the essence of the meaning of company. We seem to have lost it, but we need to come back to that if we are to find and connect the
Cosmo, I think we lost you for a bit.
And why does purpose matter? You see that kind of, remind me what I was saying?
We lost you for a bit, so maybe you can just repeat what you said kindly.
What was I saying when I dropped off?
The last part.
Can I start from here?
Yes, from company, please.
Yes. I was saying that the word company actually comes from the root. Latin means from two Latin words. The root com means doing things together. This is where you get the things like companion, committee, even a comrade, etc. And panis is also the Latin for bread. So it's really about eating bread together. This is where company comes from. It's about community. Again, you can see the word com, the root com, C-O-M, is there. This is where the word company is derived from. It also has a second meaning, which is being a subunit in a battalion, in an army battalion. So the idea of companionship or comrade, as they would call them sometimes in battle, is also coming from the word company. And the idea here, the root, C-O-M, that we're doing this together, we're a team, is crucial here, because any man in an army knows that they don't go out to die or to fight for God and country. This man is fighting for the man to his right and to his left. And he knows that he's got your back and you have got his back. That is what gives you the ability to win against a common foe. And that is what gives you a common purpose. So look at all these words here. It's mutual concern. You see words like community, comrade. It's all about doing things together. This is helping people connect a lot to what they're meant to be doing in business. And I wanted to say here that purpose matters. Why? Because companies are now not just small organizations. If you look at the top 10 richest countries by GDP, and these are 2023 statistics, if Microsoft Corporation was a company, it would be the 7th richest country on the planet. Only 6 countries, 6 only on the planet, had higher market capitalization in this was about September last year than Microsoft. And if Apple was a country, again, it would rank number 9. I mean, just look at this. It has the same market cap, than most countries on the planet. You've got over 200 countries on the planet. So you can see that these organizations have a lot of clout. They're no small organizations. But it's interesting to see that many business leaders, therefore, because of this, are asking for companies to be a lot more purposeful. Look at some of these quotes from top corporate leaders. Corporations, like human beings, need to have a soul. See, look at this language coming into the business world. You're meant to have a soul. You're not meant to have a heart of stone. And you're meant to have a purpose beyond just making money. Creating a strong business and building a better world are not conflicting goals. They're both essential for long-term success. Again, they're focusing on long-term success. And the founder of The Body Shop says that businesses today should not be just about money. They should be about responsibility. It should be about public good, not just private greed. So really, the greed is good idea is out, and basically companies are actually meant to be looking at ways to be socially productive and beneficial. So then how do we get into some of the mechanics about finding purpose? I think it's really about finding the right perspective, and very often changing the perspective that we already have. And when you change your perspective, you change your circumstances and you change your results. So I'd like to propose just 3 perspectives that we need to get right when we're looking at this. The first one is an inward perspective, that we need to change and relook at what we do inwardly. Now, what do I mean by an inward perspective? And here I'm talking about both individual purpose, and I'm talking about organizational purpose, or any relationship in which any individual may be in, because people are thinking about both getting lessons from this from a personal level as well as an organizational level. What do I mean by having an inward perspective and changing your inward perspective? It means looking inwards at 2 things. What is it one is really concerned about? And what is it, secondly, that one is really competent in? So 2 things. What is your biggest concern? And second, what is your biggest competence? One needs to be passionate about what they do. And that's why I like what I think Eunice said earlier, that you've got to be passionate. You've got to be engaged in something you are passionate about, something that you deeply care about. And we're all wired differently. We may go across, walking somewhere maybe in town or somewhere, and we come across people who are homeless. One person doesn't even notice. Another person, it bothers them. It really bugs them. And they start stopping, asking questions, and really getting a bit worked up. Why are these people on the streets? So they're concerned.
I don't
So they're
care.
concerned about that. And then you find that they are want to do something about it. So thinking about, what am I concerned about and what am I competent in? If one is if one can find a way of connecting something they're concerned about and making sure that it's something they're competent in, you are beginning to find a way in which to connect to your purpose. And we are all made different ways, but you'll find very often, if it is something you're concerned about, you very likely have a lot of competence in it. You have the ability to solve that problem, because that is probably why you noticed it in the first place, because it is something that you're concerned about and something you know how to solve. So an inward perspective is important if we need to find and connect to purpose. Here you do a few things. Ask your friends, ask your colleagues, ask your family, ask those who hang out and know you best. What is it that you really are good at? Ask them, what do you think is my real biggest talent? What do you think separates me from the competition? And you should ask yourself this question. Inwardly also means having a bit of introspection, asking yourself this question. What do I really enjoy doing? And if time and money were no object, I had all the time, I had all the money, what would I be caught doing? That helps you begin to write something here. So what is it I'm competent in, but something I care deeply about? That's an inward perspective. Your friends can help you, but you also will be able to do this. And also look back at your life and find, when were those moments of your life that you really felt your deepest joy? It's probably when you're doing something that you're really wired to do. The second perspective we're meant to have is an outward perspective. Now here, I want to say that we not only need to look inward and see how we're competent and do something that we're concerned about, but we need to see how this concern connects with people. This is where we then come back to the first question we asked in the poll, that you need to do something that solves a need or solves a problem of customers' profit, because you are a profit-oriented company, you're a business, you're not a charitable organization, you're not a CSO, you're not an NGO, you're not an FBO, you're a business. So you are going to actually find something that you're competent in, something that you care about, but you actually have got to make that connect with the real need of people. You're scratching where people are itching. Your competence and your concern is relevant because it connects with real pain and problems that people are facing. And this is where you look for opportunity. And opportunity here could be something in the trade, a trade gap, something simply meeting the shortfall in supply and demand. It could be starting a small business in a certain geography, in a certain address, simply because that particular service is not available there. It doesn't need to be innovative. If ladies want to go to a salon that is nearby over the weekend, and not do a long commute just to get to a salon, if there's a new housing estate that has come up, one could offer the very standard services, a bakery, a salon, some food kiosk, some retail offering right there. Nothing very innovative, but you're looking at geography. So what need are you meeting here? I think it's important to realize that the purpose of business, for business and people to be purposeful, you have got to find this, again, using that big C word, which is community. This is about your competence and concern, but this is about translating that into community. So a key lesson that I want us to take away from this is that your purpose is almost inevitably going to be found in community. Your purpose is not going to be felt with you trying to satisfy your own needs as a person, as a business, or even as an organization. You're going to find that by connection, by community, by engaging with others. So you've got to look outwards. So this means things like environmental scanning, looking at opportunities, looking at the biggest pain points. Pain points are actually opportunities for connection, and they're actually opportunities even for business solving solutions which are profitable, but you're solving the problem. And this is where you then begin to engage. Now, I think that these two are actually key to finding out what one's purpose is, because you're finding something you're really good at, but you're sure it's relevant. You're connecting what you're really competent and care about with something that the community cares about. That's why it's a pain and it's bothering them. And you'll find that that confluence of your deepest passion and the deepest pain of people is often the confluence of the place of where you'll find your deepest purpose. But there's a third area which I think that we need to always connect with if we are going to be purposeful, and that is an upward orientation. What do I mean by an upward orientation? Here, I want to introduce the whole question of meaning, that people really want their lives to have meaning. So we're talking about meaning beyond money. We're talking about purpose beyond a paycheck, that you're not just looking for daily bread, you're looking for daily meaning. The reason Tom was quitting his job was that he felt that beyond meeting my daily needs and paying the bills, what else am I doing that is going to have something that is transcendent? That by the word transcendent, I mean something that lasts beyond me, is bigger than me, and to connect to some higher purpose, some higher goal that is not just selfish. He couldn't see it in his consulting firm. So he went to do something else, and he got the very positive feedback that he was getting from his colleagues and his friends who were telling him, what you've helped me to do has helped me overcome, given me lessons to help me overcome other barriers in my life. This upward connection really is something that we all as human beings are really built with. We're built with a deep, innate desire to actually have meaning and purpose in our lives. No one wants to just go up and down without any meaning. There's a story that is told about Sisyphus, who was building, who was given this punishment in ancient Greek mythology of taking a big rock up a hill, and just when he got to almost got to the very top of the hill before it went down the other side, he was told to release it, and then the rock would go back to the bottom. And that was his daily endeavor, taking this big rock up, pushing it up, heaving and sweating, and then it goes down. It goes down to the bottom. He pulls it up again, his muscles bulging, heaving and sweating, it goes up, and then it comes down. Now that is going to be a recipe very quickly for mental anguish and distress, not even because the work is hard or grueling. Even if you're strong, you may find that you've built enough muscle power to make the work actually easy. It is because the work is meaningless. There's no bigger purpose than that. Now, the story of Sisyphus should be contrasted with the story of people who are rebuilding a cathedral after a fire had destroyed a famous cathedral in a big city. And the architect went to the cathedral And he asked the builders when he was doing his site inspection. He met three. One person was moving sand in a wheelbarrow and asked them, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm just taking the sand from over here to over there. All I'm doing is moving this soil." He moved further along and found another person laying some bricks, putting the mortar, one brick on top of another with some mortar in between, and asked them, "What's he doing?" He said, "Well, I'm just building this, laying bricks one on the other. And after the bricks are built, I take out my plumb line and make sure that's straight." And he moved on further down, and he found someone else also working. And he asked, "What are you doing?" And this man stopped what he was doing, stood up straight, and said, "I'm building a cathedral for the worship of the Almighty." So he had a different purpose. He had a different upward perspective, not only inward and not only outward, but he had something that was transcendent, that went beyond the day job that he was doing, that gave him meaning and purpose. Now, out of those three, who do you think had the most quality in their work? I would bet most would say it's the third one, because he had something that was giving him a real inner motivation and drive. And we need to find that if we can then connect all these three, we're inwardly focusing on what we do best. And here, we need to be careful that we don't go into areas or get into things just because other people have made a profit. We need to realize that all hard work leads to profit if it is done with excellence. But we do something that we ourselves are gifted in. We may make sure it's connecting to other people and solving real problems, but doing it at a profit, and look for opportunity. Even look for people's pain, something that is causing a problem, but do it at a profit. But then we also do something that is meaningful, that is purposeful. And this also means it's going to be ethical, and it's going to be values-based and not extractive, but it's going to be value adding. These are the keys, I'd then say, to connecting with purpose. So then, as I just wind down, what are the benefits? What are the benefits of leading and working with purpose? These three are the key benefits. You'd find that both individually and at a corporate level, you get significant results. All the results we talked about earlier in terms of customer retention, in terms of profit, we saw those numbers from the top research companies, showing the profits, the value of a customer over a long time, that you have much stronger longevity. Those companies have got better results. And the results are all around, but the results are for all the stakeholders, not just the shareholders. Reputation is very important, because I don't know whether you realize that the companies, the organizations, and even the individuals with the best reputations can actually get higher value. Why? Reputation has a lot to do with the level of trust that you have built. This is a result of the investments that one have made and one has been putting into their trust account, which you mentioned earlier. So reputation means you have actually given quality service and quality products. It means you show up on time and you do a good job. It means that you're giving value to your customers. Your customers, therefore, expect certain good things of you and high things of you, but you're constantly meeting, if not exceeding, your customer expectations. This gives you what you call a brand value, or if it's to use a marketing term, brand equity, which results in direct benefits to the bottom line. We see higher, strong brands can charge more. Strong brands have much better name recognition, and therefore people, in order not to risk buying something they don't know, tend to buy more often from brands that they recognize and they're familiar with. Strong brands and brands with a good reputation or organizations help people simplify the purchase process. And you'll find that strong reputations and brands give company resilience, because organizations with strong resilience actually bounce back from crises much faster, because they have got many deposits in their trust account. Their trust account is not in deficit. So when you go there, you don't get that signal we used to get sometimes from an ATM machine that says, you're overdrawn, no funds available. Every time they go back into when they make a mistake and they go into their trust account, their funds are there, because they've been depositing regularly through reputation and connecting in the way we mentioned earlier. So these are the very tangible results. So you can see that there's real value in connecting and working, not only in a personal, but also in a professional way with purpose. So then, what are the other new frontiers? What is the key challenge? These are the new frontiers and the key challenges of organizational leadership. Leaders today are meant to be people who inspire and build trust, who fuel high purpose. So somebody said quite rightly that purpose fuels passion, and who are skilled at communication. You'll find that a leader who cannot communicate and communicate high purpose, communicate the importance of building trust, communicate a vision that is beyond that organization, is actually going to be a leader who is finding many people exiting. I think the challenge we have in many organizations is just like that CEO who was communicating with Tom. He did not have any language, did not have any way of connecting what Tom was doing on a daily basis with what Tom wanted to do outside. So leaders today need to be conversant, need to be articulate in communicating and connecting people's purpose to personal purpose to the corporate purpose. And that is by making sure that the organization, through practicing some of the things we said earlier, exists for a reason that is better and bigger than itself. It's giving back something to society and making a difference, solving the problems of planet and people, but doing that at a profit. So these are not only the new frontiers of organizational challenge, but they are also the new frontiers of personal leadership. So organizational leadership, but even personal leadership. If organizations are building trust, leaders need to become trustworthy. So you as leaders who are on this webinar, this is your challenge. The biggest thing your followers can actually tell you is not that they love you, is not that they like you, but it is that they trust you. If a follower can come and tell you, you know, I trust you, you know that you have earned trust, because trust is always earned. It doesn't come accidentally. There is something you have done in the lives, in the mind of that person to earn and be worthy of their trust. Leaders are also meant to bring purpose and meaning to work. Not away from work, but you're meant to bring purpose, the discussion in work. And here we must commend the millennials for bringing the purpose discussion to work. Prior to the millennials, it was out of work. It was something you do after 5 o'clock. But it needs nowadays, as you've seen, customers now and consumers, they want you to be purposeful, not just to be giving them good products. It needs to be a conversation you're having in work, and leaders need to know how to bring this. And then finally, they need to develop their communication competence and giving hope. It is the army, the General Napoleon, who said that leaders are dealers in hope. Leaders are dealers in hope. If a leader cannot communicate hope, if a leader has got no way of communicating what is in his or her heart and mind, putting that into the heart and mind of the staff, of the customers, of the key stakeholders, whether they're suppliers or vendors and partners, then that leader will very soon be out of a position. And you'll find leadership communication, which is something that we also offer, is crucial in times of crisis, and also when people are not clear about what is their purpose. So let me then end by encouraging us to be people, both at the personal level as well as the organizational level, who are building trust, building high purpose, and also ensuring that we're doing that through effective and clear communication. These are the keys. These three things are the currency of success, not only in personal life, but also in business life. And the final word goes to Chinua Achebe, who said in his key novel, Things Fall Apart, that when you gather together in the moonlit village ground, it's not because of the moon. Every man can see it in his own compound. We do so because it is good for kinsmen to gather together. So even Achebe was, again, cycling back to this idea of companionship. Again, we see here the Latin root, C-O-M, compound, and again, together. You see, why are you doing this? You're doing it because there's magic that happens when you work together. That collaboration, that kinsmanship, that trust building through long-term relationships, that connection with people, where people are hurting, and ensuring that that is something that you're passionate about, which you're competent in, but also looking for endorsement and making sure that there's something more transcendent, something beyond yourself. That is the key to long-term success and results. Let me stop my share and end there, and maybe just open up to any questions that anybody may have. Maybe it might be better to post the questions. I don't know how you want to do that, Lulu, but over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Cosma. That was a lovely presentation. I was actually taking notes. So we have one participant asking, she's called Doreen. She's asking, when do you conclude that the work environment is toxic, and how can you stay productive and of purpose even in this environment?
Yes, toxic work environments certainly exist, and I think that they are a symptom of a bigger problem. And I think they're often a symptom of two things. One, poor organizational culture. And then I would also say lack of clear engagement and purpose, because people are then directing their energies not towards the common goal. Remember what we showed, that a company is a subunit of a battalion. You're looking for the goods of the person to your right and the person to your left. And therefore, you have a common purpose. If that energy that's meant to be given directly towards achieving business goals, to achieving your objectives, is now not not directed, you find it then gets directed towards other things. And that's why you find the toxic environment. You find conflict in teams. You find that one department is trying to outdo another. A lot of that has to do with the bad culture. It has to do with the bad leadership. I think it's a problem of leadership communication, because, as I was saying earlier, the leader has clearly failed to communicate a compelling vision and a compelling purpose. So people are using their energies for, unproductive things. It becomes unprofitable, and unpurposeful. One thing we need to realize, and I think it has been clear so far in the presentation, is that you're finding that some of the biggest, most successful organizations, and even some small ones, are finding that purpose and profit are not in conflict. But we're saying that profit is not the purpose of an organization. Think of it like a tree. A tree whose purpose is maybe to give shade and cover to many people out in a village or in a community. That's the purpose. It's meant to grow and give shade and support. But it doesn't do that without relying on certain things. It needs water. It needs resources such as the soil, and it needs sunlight. Now, if it doesn't have those three, it won't provide the shade. So very much like a business needs to make a profit, but the business is not the purpose of the profit is not the purpose of the business. Very much like sunlight or water is not the purpose of the tree. A business needs profit, otherwise it's going to have to rely on shareholders to keep on injecting new money, or it will soon be out of business. So it's certainly essential to go on operating, but the business needs to realize that it has got a purpose beyond the profit, just like a tree has got a purpose beyond just getting water and getting soil and getting those things. And if it's focused on those things, then you'll find the business and people aren't focused on infighting, they're focused on a bigger goal.
Thank you so much for that. I hope, Doreen, you have been answered. So in case anyone has a question, please unmute. Let's do that in order. Just unmute and ask your question. The floor is open. Just unmute and ask your question.
I do have a question. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
Yes, I can.
Now, when in the world, as you work, whether in corporate or in your own businesses, there are many well-meaning people, but there are few categories that show up quite strong: politically intelligent, manipulative. Should we be approaching them with the same style, like seeking to build trust and purpose? I don't know whether these tools really help you as you manage within that context where you're dealing with some fairly difficult people, situations, and yet you have to deal with them. How should we be looking for a few additional competences or approaches that is different from what you've just shared.
Yeah, yes, thank you for that. And I wouldn't want to say that put trust and being tough or having communication competencies as being in conflict. I don't think it's a binary choice that either you're rough and ruthless and extractive and greedy, or you're on the other side, you're generous and you're trustworthy and that you're adding value. I don't think it's a binary choice. I think what we're saying is that if one is wanting to run a solid business, there's certain things one needs to do. First of all, you need to have an excellent product or service. And often you'd find that your product or service is determined by the skill often of the founder or the desire of the founder and the investors. And there's a certain niche you want to occupy or a business gap you want to fill, etc. So that is your competence, and that's something you're passionate about. So you've got the standards of excellence, of ethics, and of value addition. What we're saying here is a business approach that you can either look at your customers as people who you extract from and look at them as a short-term gain, or say I want a long-term value building approach with my customer, and I want to bring in all my stakeholders around the table. People use words like collaboration. They use words like co-development, and you actually find ways of growing together. You'll find it actually works for your business in the long term because it also works in the true interest of your customer. So this doesn't mean you need to be tough. Obviously, you're going to find instances where maybe a customer lets you down or a supplier lets you down. You've got to insist that you want quality products from your suppliers and your vendors. You've got to insist that they deliver to you material on time. You've got to have high standards of excellence that you require from your staff. This doesn't mean that you allow them to slack off at all. So I don't want to put this as a binary choice. You're either excellent or you're profitable. No, one can actually be tough in terms of having high standards, even ambitious in terms of transformation, but you're doing it in a way. I think we're talking about a style of doing business. If you look at the companies I mentioned, because I just wanted to mention them because they're well-known public and leading companies. Look at a company like BlackRock, or look at a company like Ford Motor Corporation. None of these companies are easy or soft on profits. To become the largest investment company in the world, you've done something to get to that position. So there's obviously very good returns you've been giving over a period. And that shows you understand your business investment, you understand your dynamics, you know which market to invest in and so on. So you've got standards, you've got goals and targets, but you've got the leaders of those organizations are themselves realizing if all we're doing is going to extract and then try and get profit for ourselves and not thinking about giving back and doing something that is win-win, mutually beneficial, then we're in for the short term and not for the long term. So you can actually do both. You don't need to be make a choice between one or the other.
All right. I hope, John, you have been answered by Cosma. So Mary says, have organization systems and still lead purposefully. All right. Thank you so much. In case there is no other question. So
just say that again, Lulu. I missed that question.
It's not a question, but it's a comment from Mary.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Cosma, for your time. And I'll just like to, for any leader or aspiring leader who has been asking, about how do I become an excellent leader, or how can I, motivate my team and just learn about leadership. Cosma will be having a 21-day of leadership transformation, whereby, I don't know if you can be able to, just a minute.
And probably enlarge the slide. Yeah.
Can you be able to see it?
Yes.
Yeah, but some words are cut out. You'll probably need to
scroll from top to bottom.
All right.
Yeah. Then maybe do full screen. That's better.
Yeah, so
That's good.
Cosma will be having a 21-day of leadership transformation, whereby he'll be taking leaders, executives, managers, professionals, and those who are aspiring to be leaders and to take up leadership roles. And he'll be just taking people through foundation of leadership, leading high performance team. You'll get to understand how to lead high performance team, strategies on how to be emotional intelligent as a leader, and also ways of conflict resolution and negotiation skills, and also leadership, how to communicate better with your team. And so it will be 21 days. It will be 21 days, and every week you'll be having a session with Cosma and also an assessment every week. So he has decided to give us an introductory offer of 10,000, but till 24th of April. So after 24th of April, the prices will be at 15,000. So Faith, please just post the link to whoever would like to register for that.
The link is posted.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to register for the 21 days of leadership transformation, you can be able to use that link. And also in terms of corporate trainings, some of the signature topics that he trains on is on leadership, communication, building high trust, relational capital, productivity, and results. So in case you want to book him for a keynote speech or an executive training or any seminar, please reach out to us using this number. You can just screenshot and we'll get to assist you. So before you leave, just click that link and you'll be able to register. He only needs 30 people, and once the slots are taken, then we'll meet with him the next time. So take advantage of this time. 30 people, remember. So Faith, I don't know if the link has been posted. So just click through the link and it will also be shared on your mail so that you can register. So in case we don't have any question, thank you so much everybody for attending this webinar. And in case of any question, please reach out to us. The recordings will be shared tomorrow morning. Thank you so much. We can now leave in case you don't have any question. All right, Juliet says, thank you, Cosma. DP says, thank you. John Mwangi says, excellent session. Thanks, Cosma. Where do we pay the commitment fee? Priscilla, just hold on a minute. Someone will be able to reach out to you with a payment link. We have taken note of that. Just a minute. Just book and yes, the recording, Edna, the recording will be available. So don't worry about it. By tomorrow morning, you'll have the recording. So just select, if you want to pay half, you can select half. If you want to reserve a seat, full payment, you can select full payment. And if you want to do a commitment fee of 4,000, you can select all those. You can select that button and we'll get in touch with you. The link once again is posted. Please take advantage of this offer because it's an introductory offer. After this, the prices will be at 15,000. So Fred is asking, is the 21-day is the 21-day training full day in-house or how is it? Fred, it will be virtual and it will be once a week. You'll be meeting Cosma once a week for the next 21 days. And you'll be having assessments and you'll get to ask any questions concerning leadership, around leadership. So just reserve a slot, then we'll get to be in touch with you, Fred. All right, Purity Karimi says, thank you, Cosma. Results, reputation, resilience. Let's be hope dealers. Thank you so much, Purity, for that. So all who have registered, please know that slots are actually being taken. So please hurry up and book a slot, 10K, before the offer goes up. Remember, slots are being taken quickly. So please, please, please reserve a seat. So remember, it's 30 slots only. So just make sure you reserve a slot. You can copy the link and then then reserve a seat later. You can actually copy the link to be reshared again. Doreen, it's online, purely online. Remember, during these sessions, you are free to ask questions revolving around leadership. Florence says, if the meeting is once per week, does it translate to 3 sessions? Yes, Florence, but you'll be having assignments and follow up with the team and Cosma. June, the timing will be communicated by tomorrow once we reach out to you. Please make sure you book quickly, 10K, then the offer goes up. So please reserve a seat as you exit. Right, I can see seats being reserved. So please make sure if you're on this call, make sure that you reserve a seat. Please don't be left out for the introductory offer.